chosen ones. The universe never forgets, and karma never misses. When someone plays games with an innocent soul, they might think they've won, but the truth is, they've only borrowed time. And let's be real, karma is like that uninvited guest who shows up at the worst possible moment, and she doesn't knock. She kicks the door down while holding receipts. Studies show that people who engage in manipulative behavior often believe they're untouchable, but here's the twist. They're usually the first ones blindsided when their actions boomerang back. The same bricks they used to build their false sense of superiority are now hurtling straight at their heads. So sit tight, because today we're pulling back the curtain on what happens when karma decides to collect her dues. No mercy, no discounts, and certainly no refunds. Number 1. The innocence they exploited was their only shield. Your innocence wasn't just a quality, it was a force. It carried a light that even those who manipulated you subconsciously leaned on. By taking advantage of it, they didn't just wrong you, they removed the very thing that was protecting them. Innocence has a way of softening the impact of our flaws. It balances relationships, brings grace to situations, and often shields people from the full weight of their own misdeeds. When they exploited you, they ripped away that protective buffer. At first, they might have felt victorious, thinking they had outsmarted you, but they didn't realize that your innocence acted like an umbrella under a storm, one that sheltered not just you, but them too. Without it, the weight of their actions is hitting them harder than they ever expected. Suddenly, things aren't going as smoothly as they used to. What seemed effortless before now feels like a constant uphill battle, and they can't figure out why. That's the irony. They thought your innocence was a weakness, something to be taken advantage of, when in reality it was their greatest protection. You didn't need their validation or approval to shine. Your light came naturally. But now they've not only dimmed it in their lives, they've exposed themselves to the consequences of their own darkness. Every selfish move, every manipulative act is now coming back full circle, and they're completely unprepared. The universe doesn't overlook these things. It allows people to dig their own graves, thinking they're just digging holes for others. And now they're standing there holding the shovel, wondering how it all turned on them. They didn't just lose you, they lost the shield that kept their world from crumbling, and crumbling it is. Number 2. They invoked a cosmic debt they can't repay. When they manipulated your innocence, they didn't just wrong you. They wrote a check their soul couldn't cash. Karma operates on a principle as old as the universe itself. Whatever you take unjustly, you owe back, multiplied. By exploiting your trust and goodness, they created a cosmic debt they're now forced to repay, and this isn't a debt you can negotiate or escape from. It follows them like a shadow, growing heavier with every passing day. They probably thought their actions had no strings attached, that what they took would serve them without consequence. But manipulation carries an energetic price tag. They didn't bother to check. The universe doesn't forget, and it doesn't offer discounts. Every lie, every calculated move they made to bend you to their will is now compounding like interest on a loan they didn't realize they signed for. And here's the thing, they can't outrun it. They might distract themselves for a while, convincing themselves that they've moved on or that what they did wasn't that bad, but karma doesn't care about their justifications. It doesn't operate on their timeline either. It shows up exactly when they least expect it, demanding payment in ways that hit where it hurts the most. The beauty of this system is that it's impartial. You don't need to seek revenge or waste your energy trying to make them understand. Karma works independently, and it's always on time. The debt they created isn't just spiritual. It starts to show up in their reality, in relationships that fall apart, opportunities that slip away, and an unshakable feeling that something is missing. That's the cost of exploiting someone's purity. They'll pay it down for the rest of their lives, whether they like it or not. Number 3. The energy they stole is turning against them. Energy doesn't disappear, it transforms. When they manipulated your innocence, they didn't just take advantage of your kindness, they stole your energy. But energy is a living force. It doesn't remain stagnant, and it doesn't tolerate being misused. What they took from you is now working against them, becoming a ticking time bomb in their lives. The energy they extracted was pure good and filled with light, but when they twisted it with their manipulation, it became something entirely different. By trying to benefit from your trust, they poisoned what they took. Now that corrupted energy is seeping into every part of their lives, creating chaos and imbalance. They might not even realize why things are falling apart, why nothing feels right, why success is slipping further out of reach. That's the stolen energy turned toxic, eating away at their peace. People like them think they can take from others and thrive, but they always underestimate the ripple effect. Your energy wasn't just something they could harvest. It was part of a delicate balance. By disturbing it, they set off a chain reaction that inevitably comes back to them. It's like they pulled the wrong thread on a tightly woven fabric, and now everything is unraveling. You, on the other hand, have started to rebuild. The energy they took from you is no longer part of your story. The void they created has been filled with something stronger, sharper, and more resilient. But for them, the damage is permanent. They can't return what they took without facing the consequences of their actions, and the beauty of it all is that the very force they tried to steal is now their undoing. Karma doesn't just return energy, it amplifies it, and their manipulation has sealed their fate. Number 4. Their victories were built on sand, and it's crumbling. When they manipulated you to climb higher, they thought they were building something lasting, a life of success, recognition, or comfort. But what they didn't realize is that anything built on dishonesty and exploitation is doomed from the start. Their victories weren't real. They were illusions, propped up by the energy and innocence they stole from you. Now the cracks in their false foundation are widening, and everything they thought they had secured is slipping through their fingers. They may have used lies, deceit, or manipulation to get ahead, convincing themselves that the ends justified the means. But the problem with shortcuts is that they never hold up under pressure. Relationships gained through deceit lack trust. Wealth earned through exploitation comes with curses, not blessings, and status built on falsehoods is as fragile as a house of cards. It only takes one gust of truth for it all to come tumbling down. Now the instability is impossible to ignore. Deals are falling apart, alliances are breaking down, and the people who once admired them are starting to see through the facade. They might blame bad luck or external circumstances, but deep down they know the truth. Their victories were never theirs to begin with. They were stolen moments, borrowed from others. And now, the bill is due. As the foundation crumbles beneath them, they're scrambling to hold on to anything they can, but the harder they try to stabilize what's left, the faster it slips away. It's poetic justice at its finest. The very manipulation they relied on to build their life is now the force destroying it. Their collapse isn't sudden, it's a slow, agonizing unraveling, one that leaves them with nothing but the weight of their own betrayal. Number 5. They can't run from the mirror of their own guilt. The worst part of karma isn't what happens around them, it's what happens inside them. They might appear unaffected on the surface, still smiling and pretending everything is fine. But when the world goes quiet, when they're alone with their thoughts, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Every sleepless night, Every moment of anxiety is the price they're paying for what they did to you. Their guilt isn't just a passing thought, it's a relentless shadow following them everywhere they go. They see it in the little things, in the eyes of someone who reminds them of your kindness, in a conversation that brings back memories of their lies, or in the silence that used to feel peaceful but now feels suffocating. The mind is cruel to those who betray, replaying their actions over and over like a punishment they can't escape. What makes this even more unbearable is that they hold the key to their freedom, but they refuse to use it to face the mirror and acknowledge what they did. It would mean admitting their flaws, owning up to their manipulation, and seeking genuine forgiveness, but their pride won't let them. Instead, they lock themselves in a mental prison of their own making, where guilt festers like a wound that never heals. This internal punishment is far more brutal than any external consequence. They can't outrun their thoughts, can't numb themselves forever, and can't silence the voice in their head that reminds them of the innocence they crushed. The universe doesn't need to lift a finger. Their own guilt is enough to consume them, piece by piece, until they become a shadow of the person they pretended to be. And that's the real karma, living with the unbearable weight of who they've become. Number 6. What they feared most about you is becoming reality. They never wanted you to realize how powerful you truly were. Their manipulation was designed to keep you small, controlled, and unaware of your potential. They saw your light before you did, and it terrified them, so they lied, undermined you, and exploited your innocence to create a version of you that they could dominate. But life has a way of flipping the script, and now the very thing they feared most about you is coming to life. By trying to suppress you, they unintentionally gave you the tools to rise. Their betrayal forced you to see the truth, to sharpen your instincts, and to build resilience. They never thought you'd need it. Every time they pushed you down, you grew stronger in ways they can't comprehend. They thought their manipulation would break you, but all it did was ignite the fire you didn't even know you had. And now the tables have turned. The person they tried to diminish is standing tall, unshaken and unapologetically powerful. They see it in the way you move, the way you speak, and the way others are drawn to you. They can't control you anymore, and worse, they can't compete with the version of you they accidentally helped create. The irony is brutal. Their fear of your greatness drove them to manipulate you, and that manipulation became the very thing that unleashed it. Now, you're everything they tried to keep you from being, and they're haunted by the realization that they can no longer touch you. They created their own worst nightmare, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Watching you thrive is their ultimate punishment, and your growth is a reminder of the power they were never meant to control. Number 7. Their lives are haunted by the trust they betrayed. When they broke your trust, they shattered something sacred, not just between you and them, but within themselves. Trust is a fragile thing, and when someone abuses it, the damage doesn't stop at the person they wronged. It becomes a curse they carry into every corner of their life. Now, no matter how hard they try to move on, the trust they betrayed haunts them like a ghost they can't escape. In every new relationship, that betrayal lingers. It's there in the back of their mind, whispering doubts and feeding their paranoia. They can't fully trust anyone anymore because, deep down, they know what they're capable of. They know how easy it is to lie, manipulate and deceive, and that knowledge makes them assume others are doing the same to them. Every time they meet someone new, they can't help but question their motives. Are they being used, lied to, betrayed? Their past actions have planted seeds of fear that now grow uncontrollably in their own mind. This paranoia isn't baseless. It's karma, manifesting in its most poetic form. The universe has a way of balancing the scales, and what they did to you will eventually circle back to them. They'll experience betrayal not just once, but repeatedly, in ways they never saw coming, and with each instance, they'll be reminded of the trust that they destroyed and the pain they caused. The worst part is that they know this is their doing. They might never admit it out loud, but deep down, they recognize the pattern. Their inability to fully trust, to form genuine connections, and to feel at peace is the price they pay for the innocence they exploited. And no matter how hard they try to outrun it, the shadow of their betrayal will always follow. Number 8. The ripple effect is ruining their connections. When they manipulated you, they didn't act alone. Whether it was friends cheering them on, colleagues turning a blind eye, or enablers providing cover, they had a network of people who directly or indirectly supported their actions. But karma doesn't only come for the one who led the charge. It spreads like wildfire, leaving destruction in its wake. The ripple effect of their betrayal is now tearing apart the very connections they relied on to thrive. At first it seems subtle. A trusted ally starts questioning their loyalty. A close relationship feels strained without an obvious reason. The same network that once amplified their actions is beginning to crumble. This is the nature of karma. It doesn't isolate its consequences to a single person. It infects everyone tied to the wrongdoing. Those who enabled their manipulation, whether out of ignorance or active participation, are now facing their own consequences. Betrayal comes from places they never expected. Alliances turn into enemies. Supporters abandon them when they need help the most. The manipulative web they once spun is now ensnaring everyone involved, creating a chain reaction of broken alliances and burned bridges. And as their circle grows smaller, so does their power. The isolation becomes suffocating, not just because they're losing people, but because they're losing the control they once wielded so effortlessly. What makes this even more devastating is the realization that they caused it all by spreading harm and involving others in their deceit. They set the stage for their own downfall. Now the connections they manipulated are infected with distrust and resentment. The ripple effect doesn't just punish, it dismantles, ensuring that what was once a tightly woven network of support is reduced to nothing but scattered pieces. Total isolation is no accident. It's the echo of their own actions. Number 9. They've become the architect of their own misery. They thought manipulation would be their ticket to power, a way to control the narrative and shape their world in their favor. But what they didn't realize is that maintaining a lie is far more exhausting than telling the truth. The web they wove, full of deceit, manipulation, and half-truths, has become the very thing that holds them hostage. Every time they tell another lie to cover up the last one, they sink deeper into a pit of their own making. What started as a small deception has turned into an insurmountable mountain of contradictions and stories that don't add up. The energy it takes to keep their facade intact is like a constant drain, sucking the life out of them. They can't even enjoy the victories they thought they'd secured, because there's always the looming fear that someone might see through the cracks. What was once a strategy for success has now become the architect of their misery. Every day is spent managing their image, covering their tracks, and pretending to be someone they're not. The peace they thought they could have by controlling others is now nothing but a distant memory, just a constant anxiety, a deep sense that the walls they've built are beginning to close in on them. The more they try to hold it all together, the more it slips through their fingers. They can't escape the reality they've created, one where their every move is calculated, every word measured, and every relationship tainted. Their misery isn't the result of outside forces. It's the inevitable consequence of the life they chose to build. The effort to maintain their lies, to keep the manipulation going, is consuming them from the inside out. They've trapped themselves in a life of their own making, and now there's no way out. Number 10. Their manipulation was an invitation for divine injustice. When they manipulated your innocence, they miscalculated one crucial thing, the power that was quietly watching over you. They saw your kindness, your purity, your trust in others as a weakness, something they could exploit for their own gain. What they didn't realize is that the very qualities they took advantage of were actually a shield for you, protected by forces far beyond their understanding. While they were focused on their own schemes, they failed to see that you weren't alone in this. Divine favor had always been on your side, and now their actions are catching up with them in a way they could never have imagined. They thought they could break you, diminish you, use your innocence to their advantage, but in doing so, they triggered a response that is not bound by the laws of man or the limits of human comprehension. The universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, doesn't take kindly to the exploitation of the innocent. What they thought was an opportunity for personal gain has now become an invitation for divine justice to step in and set things right. Their misdeeds, once hidden in the shadows, are now being brought into the light, and they can't outrun the consequences. Now, they're standing in the crossfire of a justice that is relentless, impartial, and beyond human reach. What they thought they could control, what they thought they could manipulate, is now outside their grasp. It's no longer about what you can do to them. It's about what forces beyond this world are doing to them. Every step they take to evade their fate is another step deeper into a reckoning that has been long overdue. And while they thought they were the ones pulling the strings, they're now the puppets caught in a web of divine retribution they never saw coming. Number 11. The bricks of karma are hitting when they least expect. Karma doesn't give a warning. It doesn't send a note or offer a heads up. It strikes when they least expect it, during moments they believe they are untouchable, when everything feels stable, when they're resting on the illusion that they've gotten away with it. That's when the bricks of karma come crashing down. It's as if the universe waits for them to get too comfortable, to think they've outsmarted it, only to deliver the kind of shock that shakes them to their core. There's nothing worse than the feeling of being blindsided by your own actions. They've built up this false sense of invincibility, walking through life like nothing can touch them. But karma waits for the perfect moment to hit, catching them completely off guard. One moment, they're basking in their success. The next, everything they thought was secure crumbles beneath them. Their carefully constructed facade, the lies they've told, the people they've manipulated, all of it suddenly comes crashing down. The shock isn't just surprising, it's devastating. Everything they've worked for, everything they've relied on, begins to unravel at a pace they can't control. It's unrelenting. It doesn't let up. The same energy they put out into the world, deceit, manipulation, and falsehoods, comes back to them in the most unforgiving way. And in those moments, they realize too late that no one is exempt from the laws of the universe. The consequences are inevitable. The price of their actions was always going to catch up with them, but they never saw it coming. And now they're left with the harsh reality that karma doesn't play by anyone's rules. It strikes when it's least expected, and it hits harder than they ever imagined. Number 12. They've condemned themselves to a life of repetition. By manipulating you, they didn't just make a fleeting mistake. They condemned themselves to a life of repetition. Karma isn't just about getting back at someone, it's about lessons. The universe has a way of ensuring that those who refuse to learn from their wrongdoings are forced to face the same trials again and again, like a never-ending loop of consequences. Until they come to terms with the betrayal they've caused, they're trapped in a cycle that will keep repeating itself with every new opportunity, every new relationship, and every new venture crumbling before them. It's not just bad luck, It's a direct result of their actions. They won't be able to move forward because they failed to learn the most crucial lesson. The pain they inflicted on you wasn't just an isolated event. It was a reflection of their own character. And until they confront that, the universe will keep bringing them back to the same place, showing them the same failures, teaching them the same painful lessons. Each time they think they've escaped the consequences, they'll fall into the same traps. The people they try to manipulate will see through them, the opportunities they chase will slip away, and the ventures they begin will end in disaster. It's not because they're unlucky, it's because they've made no real effort to change. The cycle is their curse, but it's also their choice to break. They can keep running from the truth, keep ignoring the consequences, but it will always come back to them. The only way out of this endless repetition is to finally face the truth of what they've done, take responsibility for their actions, and change the pattern. Until then, they'll remain in a never-ending loop of self-destruction. In the end, the manipulation they thought would bring them power only served to bind them in a cycle of their own making. What they fail to understand is that the universe has an uncanny way of delivering justice, one that is far beyond their control. Each lie, each betrayal, and each attempt to break your spirit was merely an invitation for a reckoning that they could never escape. The bricks of karma hit harder than they imagined. The trust they shattered will never be fully repaired, and their false victories will crumble in the most unexpected ways. They've condemned themselves to a life of repetition, where every opportunity, every new relationship, and every new venture will unravel until they finally come face to face with the weight of their actions. But here's the thing. They have the power to break the cycle. The moment they accept responsibility, acknowledge the harm they've caused, and genuinely change, they can step out of the loop that has kept them chained to their past mistakes. Until then, the consequences will keep coming like waves crashing relentlessly on a shore that can never dry. In the end, their greatest enemy isn't karma itself. It's the refusal to face the truth of who they've become. And as long as they refuse, the punishment they fear will continue to haunt them, reminding them that the cost of manipulation is always far greater than they ever anticipated. If this message resonated with you, if you can feel the weight of truth in every word, then you're exactly where you need to be. Don't miss out on the powerful insights we share here. Insights that challenge, empower, and ignite the fire within. If you're ready for more, hit that subscribe button and join a community that values wisdom, growth, and unshakable strength. You're not here by accident. You're here because something in you knows the truth, and we're just getting started. Don't let this be the last time you hear from us. Subscribe now and let's keep this journey going. Your best self is waiting, and it starts with taking action today.